So Chris Algieri recently made the comments that Vergil Ortiz is currently the best fighter at 154, at junior middleweight or super welterweight, right? Now, on paper, I can completely understand this line of thought. You look at the records, you look at the other 154 pound fighters, sorry, and yeah, it makes sense. Vergil Ortiz is probably number one. It probably is the best. But it depends. Are you including Terence Crawford? If you're not including Terence Crawford, then I understand. If, or in my opinion, maybe this is a controversial take, but I think even though Jaron Ennis hasn't yet competed at 154, he will compete at 154. He will go on to win world championships at 154, and he should be up there as well. Obviously, it's a bit different because he's yet to prove it, right? He's yet to prove that he's one of the best. But I think, my personal opinion, he'll go on to be one of the best at 154. Then you look at Madrimov. He beat Madrimov. It was close. It was competitive, but he managed to get the win. And then you've got Fundora. Fundora's already been beat before, but Fundora's in that conversation as well. Of course, stylistically a super tricky fight, but Vergil Ortiz is unbeaten and a world champion, right? And he beat Madrimov in his last fight, which is a great name for your resume, at 154. But like I said, there's a couple of caveats there. It's not as cut and shut as that, right? I understand not including Terence Crawford, and I can understand not including Jaron Ennis because neither guys currently are active at the weight class, right? I think if looking at those guys, below those guys, Vergil Ortiz is right there. Right, he is. But you look at the Madrimov fight and you see how close it was, you see how competitive it was. If that was a rematch to happen, would the result be the same? We don't know. That's the truth, we don't know. But obviously, the fight that they should make for the Ring Super Welterweight Championship, which I believe is vacant, is Ortiz and Fundora, who is the clear 1 and 2 at 154 pounds for the time being. Like I said, assuming Terence Crawford's no longer in that division, even though I believe Terence Crawford will go back down to 154, and then maybe down the line we'll have an even bigger fight, or Terence Crawford will retire after the Canelo fight. Of course, Jaron Ennis, he'll continue to work his way up the division, but soon he'll be looking at world title shots. And then again, if Jaron Ennis can fight Boots, Jaron Ennis is Boots. If Boots can fight Vergil Ortiz, or if Boots can fight Fundora, those are huge fights commercially. Huge, world title fights that will make both guys a lot of money, right? But Vergil Ortiz is a hell of a boxer, and he's undoubtedly world class, and he's at that level for sure. Like I said, he's undeniably right at the top of 154. But is he the best at 154? I sort of gave some caveats, and I don't know, because would Vergil Ortiz beat Terence Crawford? I don't think so. Would Vergil Ortiz beat Jaron Ennis? I don't know. Does he beat Fundora? I think he can beat Fundora. In my opinion, I think he can beat Fundora. But we don't know until we know. We need to see the fights. And hopefully with Riyadh season, with Turkey Al Sheikh, they'll put some money behind it. Of course, Fundora's with PBC. And from what I hear, Al Heyman is a bit reluctant to work with Riyadh season. But I hope that's not a hurdle to getting that fight made, because that is the best fight at 154. That's the must-see fight at 154. And I know Keith Thurman and Ortiz might be in the works for PBC in November, I believe. And that would be a good fight. But again, doesn't really prove anything for Vergil Ortiz, in my opinion. I think this fight is more for Keith Thurman to understand how much Keith Thurman's got left in the tank. Right? Because I think if Vergil Ortiz beats him, we're like, well, yeah, Keith Thurman's no longer world level and hasn't been for a while. Or if Keith Thurman wins, then we're like, well, we've just now got... That's completely shaken up the 154-pound division. I would like to see that fight happen, but I don't think Keith Thurman wins. If Keith Thurman does win, then of course, you've just thrown the whole division into sort of... right in the mix. And it's all become like a free-for-all now, which is great. And we love to see in boxing. But yeah, I'd be curious to know what you guys think of Chris Algieri's comments. Do you think Vergil Ortiz is the best at 154? Or do you think it's one of the other guys I named? Do you think it's a Madrimov? Do you think it's a Fundora? Do you think Boots has the potential to go on and become one of the best at 154? Or are you still counting Terence Crawford as a 154-pound fighter? Curious to know what you guys think in the comments below. But yeah, another episode of the Seth Solo Side Quest in the bag, and I'm out. Peace.